This is a channeling of the 12th dimensional entity known as Quanta. You could also call it Kundalini or the Holy Ghost or simply Prana or Chi or any of these terms. It's the universal energy that permeates all creation. Some 3.5 years ago, I triggered a Kundalini awakening and have been dealing with different types of physical symptoms related to it ever since. And generally, it's progressing nicely. But recently, it's made its way into my head, and it's become quite hard for me to manage linear thinking, which is sometimes sort of anxiety provoking. But it's also pointing to a new way of perception, I believe. So I'll try to get him to explain this type of more prismatic or gem-like or diamond-like consciousness. And with no further ado, this is the Quanta on diamond consciousness. Yes, and hello. You are wondering why we are coming through so powerfully today, sending jitters and shivers through this bodily expression we find ourselves interacting with in this dimensional density you know as the time-space. You are asking us about the quality of consciousness as it progresses from one level of temporal perception to another. This is what is happening not only to the channel and the querent in question, but to all of you who are engaged in multi-dimensional perception and the shifting, changing timelines you encounter now. The truth of the matter is, it was always like that, but it was necessary for the development of mind to its present tense state, that it perceived things in a linear fashion. That is to say, that it perceived things as consequential, as one thing arising from a previous action or circumstance or occurrence. This is still the empirical model that so many of you attach yourselves to in your daily lives. But the truth is, spoken with the Buddha's words, this is that arises. There are no relationships in the all. The all simply is. And this being is not a nounness. This is only in the linear fashion of time. This being is resting in the center of prismatic creation. We apologize for that sound, but that sound is quite appropriate because like the gong that strikes, this is where you find yourself in the radiating center, both as the one who strikes the gong as well as the gong being stricken. Struck, we believe the word might be. The image we are trying to convey here is to perceive yourself in the center of a lattice of multi-dimensional vibrations. So it is true from the sense of temporality or personality. You are the unmoving center of this process. But what we are trying to convey here is that you are not the center, but you are the fluctuating point. You are the point in which these rotations of tensions in your immediate reality extending all the way out to the greatest macrocosmical levels. All these tensions are resolving themselves in the confluence point of your personality. And this confluence point is not like some vessel being pushed downstream or downriver and then encountering new landscapes and avoiding the treacherous currents as it flows along. Rather, you are like the seed in the ground, sprouting in all directions at once. And yet this seed becomes invisible as it releases itself into time in the process of the plant. And yet the seed remains both the origin of the plant and its purpose. It is the invisible meaning, we would say in quotation marks, the invisible center of the process. And so what is happening to the human mind as it becomes a prism to reflect higher dimensional reality is that it begins to perceive itself as something that gives rise to the body and something that is results from the body, but it is something more than the body. It is delocalized. It lives in time only before the body is and after the body is, and yet this mind is the seed of material reality, and it is the fruit that your existence is bringing forth. Realize that your mind is already, and this goes for all of you, participating in the great unfolding of the cosmic harmonies on dimensional levels that you do not perceive in ordinary reality, and when you dream of them or you experience them in altered states, you only grasp details that you are able to fold into your present physical comprehension of what things are. But this does not mean that your diamond mind isn't already helping to create the skeleton of God in the realm where such things take place. That is to say, the realm that lies outside and around and below and above physical reality. Here you are a part of the divine unfolding, and your mind, as it learns, begins to add its sentiments, opinions, perceptions, ideas, and preferences to the construction of the universe in its final form, that which you will perceive as the final thing when you finally perceive the final. We realize we are talking in somewhat apocalyptic terms. And we would remind you that the apocalypse is not an apocalypse of matter, but an apocalypse of mind. Your linear mind is ending, and your autocratic societies with them. We advise any of you to choose what perceptions you feel are most beneficial for your own growth at this critical junction in time. But also realize that whatever direction you go, it will eventually lead you home. And this home is the crystalline mirror of your perfection, set in the comfort of never fading, never dying, always possible and existing realities above these levels of understanding. We wish that this communication may serve to remind you of the love and prosperity residing in your heart, and the beauty encompassing your entire being. Be well, and may the light touch your life this day and all days.